Ken Show. John Cobalt and Ken Champeau. It's KFI AM 640.
All right, a few weeks ago, we were playing some audio from Governor Fallow, Governor Brown-Doggle, Jerry Brown. And this is when he walked up to reporters. We're going to play this clip for you first. This was when we had those horrible fires going on in Northern California, like up in the Napa area. And Jerry Brown was really, and you notice this is toned down considerably. He had just come back from seeing the Pope at the Vatican. He was full of himself over climate change.
Yeah.
He thought he was the new prophet to get something going. And then when Senate Bill 350 failed, or at least most of it failed, the big part about cutting back your gas consumption, he's faded on this quickly.
Well, he had PA. He had Pope arousal. Oh. And that made him a little too enthusiastic about this global warming nonsense. So his chemicals have settled down now.
And when he didn't get the bill passed, it crushed his hope to make world news. He wants to go to the climate change conference in Paris, which I think is in December.
Yeah, he got his butt
holding
kicked
that
on
bill in his hand and saying California's leading the way in the U.S. We're doing something. We're going to cut back people's gas consumption by 50%, but that went down.
Let's play this clip, and then we'll tell you what, because he's always quoting the scientists, right? So we're going to throw this back in his face. We'll play the clip and then tell you what the scientists say.
Our message is real clear. California's burning. What the hell are you going to do about it? And it's not just California. It's extreme weather events throughout the country and the world. It's not a game of politics. It's an existential threat to our whole well-being and way of life. So at least come up with some response. This really transcends one party or another. This is about human beings, our children, and our future.
Right.
The climate is unstable. And the word that people use is extreme weather events. Now we're in an extreme weather event, and there will be more. So we don't know how many more. We don't know what it is. But you can imagine if the drought would continue for a year or several years, California can literally burn up. And we're going to have to take steps, not out of a sense of alarm, but with real caution and wisdom and insight. We're going to have to pull all our resources, and we're going to have to create more to respond tolerably well.
Put your pants back on, crazy man. Turns out, and we knew this, he's dead wrong. Climate change has nothing to do with the fires we're having this year, according to scientists. Do you know what causes some of these fires to get really big? A lack of fires. Because when you don't have fires in a specific area over a long period of time, all the dry brush piles up, gets really thick, and so there's a lot more fuel to burn.
No, then we should set our own fires. Well, they've done that, right?
They've done that.
Yeah, controlled burns.
Right, so number one reason you have a really big fire is that you haven't had a fire in a long time. Because if you had one recently, then you wouldn't have much to burn. Second thing, according to this story, one reason we have huge fires is because we put them out so quickly. As one analyst said, we have 100 years of fire suppression. We've gotten really good at limiting the fires, which means, again, all the dry brush builds up. There's lots and lots of fuel. And when one finally gets going, you've got a big one. Because it used to be all fires burned out. We didn't live here, or very few people lived here, and the fires back in ancient days would probably rage for weeks and months. None of us knew. Nobody knew because nobody lived here. Nobody tracked it. Now, as soon as a fire happens, and understandably because now people are here with their homes, they go and they rush in to the best they can to quench it as quickly as possible. Well, all that does is it sets up the next really big fire because the fire suppression keeps the fire smaller than it would have been. And that's why we have these things. Big fires come from a lack of fires. Big fires come from putting out the previous fires more quickly.
A study published by a Columbia University team led by a climatologist named Park Williams concluded that global warming has indeed shown itself in California by increasing evaporation that has aggravated the current drought. But he does not believe that climate change is a major cause of the drought. So there is no connection. In fact, another climatologist, a specialist at the University of Colorado, said Jerry Brown is engaging in what they call noble cause corruption.
Yeah.
It's easier to make a political case for change using immediate and local threats. That's what we said at the time.
Yeah, in other words,
rather than those on a global scale.
That's propaganda. It's taking advantage of an event like a fire or a drought and then making a wild statement that's totally unsupported, knowing that most of the public doesn't know anything about the issue. So if you ever wondered what demagoguing is about, that's exactly what it is. If you ever hear that word, it's propaganda. It's taking a complicated issue, reducing it to some ridiculously simplistic phrase, knowing that much of the public is ignorant. And then people start going, I heard the governor say, that the climate change is causing the fires. And even though politicians are in major disrepute these days, the human mind being as fragile as it is, when it hears an authority figure make a statement, you tend to believe it against your will sometimes. Jerry Brown says often enough that we have climate change, we have global warming, it's causing these fires. Part of you accepts that. You have to work hard to, first of all, go find the information that gives the truth. And he is one of the biggest full of crap politicians I've ever seen in my life.
This article even says what we said at the time. Even if you believe all the climate change disaster that can come, including fires, it's decades away. It's not happening right now. The temperature change has been mild. It's just the alarmists are saying, well, at the scale, it's going to continue. And many years from now, it's going to be way too more. But it's not here yet. So you can't take a fire today and connect it to what, even if you believe in climate change, what would happen decades from now.
Right. Remember, there was a 17-year period right up to this past year where the average global temperature did not go up even a tenth of a degree. All right? It was a 17-year pause, a hiatus. Even the UN crackpots agreed. So there has been no climate change that's gone on. They think it's going to happen over the next 100 years, but it actually has not happened. And so this is all nonsense. And then they finally they found a spokeshole named Nancy Vogel. She spoke for the governor's Natural Resources Agency. And she goes, well, the governor's not saying that climate change alone is making the fires worse.
Alone.
She said, what it is, but addressing fires in the same breath as global warming broadens the discussion and encourages us to think about the future. He's lying.
Man,
and
he walked up to all those reporters. I mean, we just played the clip. What are you going to do about it? We're burning down.
Yeah, because he knows that every fat, stupid-ass, lazy reporter crowded around is going to print and broadcast his quote uncritically. He knows that because the reporters don't care. They're punching a clock. They need their quote, file their story. They're going to go home and drink their beer. They don't care. What does it matter if Jerry Brown is right or wrong? All they're saying is like, hey, we're just reporting what he said. We're not making a judgment here.
Well,
so what they do is they enable these bastards to spew their propaganda because they won't challenge them. You don't have to make a judgment. Just say, prove it.
There's another quote in here that just last month, Jerry Brown talking about air pollution at a UN-sponsored panel once again said, we're already being affected by climate change. These fires are more frequent, of greater magnitude, and display completely unique characteristics. So, sorry, spokeshole for Brown, but he is linking it directly currently to climate change.
Yeah. You know what? If the fires are exacerbated by any by any act from man, it's because, as I said before, we put the fires out quickly, and that creates an enormous fuel base. The fires obviously don't exist without the fuel. Why is there so much fuel available for one of these fires? Because we don't allow stuff to burn out of control anymore, the way it used to be before we settled in the area. It's not that complicated. John and Ken Show, KFI, and Amy King is news.